Hello, friends. It's me, Cynthia, and I'm here with Azalea,
Hello.
and we're live in Orlando. So, yesterday we decided, hey, let's see Mom in a minute. So, we decided to drive down to Orlando and see my mom and my older brother, Dwayne. Especially after Milton, we wanted to check on them and see what was going on with the homestead and see what was happening. So we spurred the moment, drove down to Orlando, and we'll be here till Saturday while Greg and Max are holding down the fort in Asheville. And we're a little like feeling the feeling of, what's that feeling we were having of kind of like, do we want to leave during this time, or are we like not being fully supportive if we go? But
Indecisive, I guess.
a little indecisive. But it's nice to be here with our family. It felt pretty good to be in a place that very, very rarely changes. Like this living room situation, or I'm sitting in the dining room. It's been the same. How long would you say this is the same, Azalea?
As long as I've been alive,
as long as Azalea's been alive, it's looked exactly the same. So it's it felt pretty good to, I don't know, it felt pretty good to be somewhere that's so permanent and stable feeling. So, yes, Terry says, it has been a long few weeks. You need a break. It felt pretty good, but also I felt guilty, so I don't know. And you know what was weird is it's so warm here. I sometimes forget. I'm like, why am I so warm? Like, I'm in Florida now, and it's, how it was like 80 degrees. I'm used to the mountain weather, which is in the 70s and perfect. So kind of interesting. Well, I see my friends. Hello, Terry. Hello, Robin. Hello, Pat. Hello, my friends. Thank you for joining us this evening. We're doing a little bit of, tonight I wanted to show some wax work. I brought my kit. I have this, I'm going to show you my travel setup. Oh, Terry says, when you get home, you can ship Greg off somewhere to recharge his batteries too. I think he would probably like to go to Ohio. I think he would like that. That's his motherland, is Ohio. So I think he would like it. This is my wax box. I got this a long time ago. You can see where I didn't notice it. I was like, why is the drawer not closing? But you know what? A bunch of alcohol leaked, and it leaked onto the bottom, and it messed it up. So it's kind of messed up on the bottom. It doesn't open right. But that's because I did this. I put this in there, and this is the cap I put on it. So surprise, surprise, you use a shot glass from the estate sale to be your cap, then it's not watertight. So there you go. So this goes like this. You could put something with those little elastic bands to put your like reference photos, and it has these little things to put tools. These are slots. This is from Rio Grande, like ages and ages ago, at least 20 years. It has this thing here. Now it's being tricksy now, and it has this little drawer right here. Sorry. So there's all of my waxes, and when I say all of them, I mean all of the waxes that I brought. I probably have like 10 or 15 boxes full like this of works in progress. And it's pretty fun. I have a lot of things in here. I will switch the camera over here in a second, and so you can see what's been happening in this, like my treasure box of waxes. So what I was going to show today is how to make bigger pieces from smaller pieces of wax. So that's I've had people ask, so how do you add on? And I'm in a wax carving group on Facebook, and occasionally I'll see people ask, so this piece broke, what can I do? Should I super glue it together? And the answer is no. You do not solder, or you do not super glue your pieces together, because that is not the way. I will show the proper way, but the wax work that I do is kind of not like the way that people are taught wax work in a jewelry setting, which is, it's kind of strange. I use wax the same way I was taught by my friend Bob Burkett I am coming to this arena of carving from a clay background. I learned on polymer clay. That's what I used to make all my masters out of. And it's good for some things. It's great for pendants and things that are kind of thick or like round beads. That's perfect for it. You can bake in layers. I've shown that before where you bake pieces in multiple layers, but it is not good for something that is more like here. This is what I've been working on. So this is a shawl pin. This is where it was going to be sprued onto a tree to cast. But this was a pin that I was working on, a shawl pin. And if you tried to make this in polymer clay, it would be very fragile. It would not hold up. It would not be a good choice. It would be a terrible choice because it would just break constantly, and you'd have to deal with that. Things like rings. This is a ring that's adjustable that I was thinking would be pretty cool, kind of like seaweed or lichen. It's like this. You could not make this with polymer clay or ceramic. So there are definitely some pros to using jewelry wax. And the type of wax that I use is a blend of Kerr. It's Kerr wax. There's red and blue. We mix it, and you can see here, I'll show you. So this is mostly blue. This is a little, where's the camera on that? That's a blue wax that is more blue than red. And the reason we do this is because each of the waxes has different attributes. Like the red is really fluid. The blue is kind of harder. It's a harder wax. So when you mix the two, you get a wax that is, number one, easy to see your detail, because I find that they have all different colors of waxes and all different, like there's one that I love the color. It's like a translucent, like powder puff blue. And that stuff is so hard to see your details. It's just, you can't even, it's like you're looking through a layer. It's really difficult to see. I'll show you here where you can see it a little bit better. All right, so here's two of the same casting. This one has more blue, and this one is mostly I just basically need to flip the camera. Or I'm flipping the camera. What am I doing trying to peer through it? Oh, I see. I was not looking at the comments as hard as I should have been. Let's see. Oh, hello, Debbie. Hello, Diane. Yes, I see. Now I see it's out of focus. So I'm going to flip the camera. Katney, I have a new background because I'm at my mom's house. All right, okay, this is the way to flip. Flip to the other phone. Right on her, like, there you go. See the two different colors of wax? That's very apparent there. Let me see what I'm doing here. All right. Hello, Liz. Hello, my friends. All right. So what I have in this bottle right here, this is a alcohol lamp. And what's in here is denatured alcohol. It is a very clean burning fuel, and it doesn't turn black when you use it. So that's why I like it. I don't want to catch I have a bunch of cords hanging out, and I got to be mindful that I do not catch that stuff on fire, because this is a very hot, concentrated flame. You can change the flame. I'm going to put it on there for a second before it's too hot. You can change it by adjusting this and pulling it down a little bit to make a small flame, and then you can twist it up. This is a little bit more, how do you say? There are ones that have a twist to adjust it, like on a oil lamp. Okay, I'm going to move this out of the way because this area right above it is very hot. Make sure it's not in there. All right, so those are the examples right here of the different, you can see which one. These have a little bit more blue. This has a little bit of the red matte wax. This is how I usually like it to look. more red than blue. This is a clasp I'm working on. I think I've showed this before. This is something that would be fantastic for a beaded project. So it has a kind of almost like equestrian gear. When Azalea was doing horseback riding, she had a lot of gear that kind of reminded me of this shape. Oh, hi Nilda, she says. Hi, Cynthia and Azalea. Almost missed your stream. I'm glad you didn't. Thank you all for joining me in this kind of spur of the moment trip. Pretty fun. We drove around today, and it was fun to hang out with my mom and my older brother. I hate having this in the thing to show because it's kind of ugly. Sherry says, I was commenting on your video from a year ago. I was wondering how I had commented earlier. I'm such a dork. That's funny. So what I'm doing is I'm heating up my tools. Now, there are machines that you can use. It's called a hot wax pen, and it's like a little soldering iron. You can see that heat coming off of it. So it's hot. So I'm going to show you how I start pieces that are big. And this is kind of fun. All right, so we make these blanks. These blanks are just, they're in shapes and sizes. We just have those two. I was going to teach a class, and this was the blank that I was going to use. So it's kind of fun to be able to decorate and alter a shape with files and tools. If you already have a pre-existing shape, it makes it a lot faster to use. A lot faster, I guess. It speeds up the process a little more. This is the sprue that I just snapped off. And I save these little pieces, and sometimes I'll do one of these. I'll melt it and then stick it to the edge of my, just stuck it right to the edge. And that's where I'll grab wax from my hot tool. All right, I'm going to put a couple of these together and demonstrate how that can be. So if I wanted to make a bird, for example, or maybe not a bird, maybe we'll come up with something else. What do you think I should make, Azalea?
I don't know. Put me on the spot. I can't think of anything.
I'm putting myself on the spot.
like a jack-o'-lantern, pumpkin, kitty.
Maybe.
Hat.
I'm making. So what I'm doing now is I'm melting these two pieces together. See that? How it's like kind of like. What is this like? I don't know what this is like. Kind of reminds me a little bit of welding. If you've ever done welding, it reminds me of that. Because you're kind of melting it in place. This would be more like welding like this. This is, let's see. I need a bigger piece. Okay, this is a little something Max was carving. A knife, a weapon, of course. Okay, so I'm melting the edge of this, getting it hot. So this would be more like welding, is to put the piece and use the hot wax like solder. And you have two, it's like I'm gluing them together, and I'm not using any kind of super glue. Some people would use super glue, but if you use super glue, you get a weird, I'm going to go in a little tighter. I'm going to go in a little closer. Okay. Zoom a little bit close. It's a little bit better, I think. There we go. Okay. I see my friend Mary. Hello, Mary. Hello, Robin. How's everybody doing today? Where's everybody coming from? I'm coming from Orlando right now. Where is everybody else? Where are my fans? Where are my friends? Where's everybody coming from today? Do we have any North Carolina people? That's my question. And if I'm supposed to know your address and I forgot, some people I know exactly where they live. Like if they're my friend and I went to their house, then I know that. Okay, so this is, Luck, Wisconsin, Southern Arizona, Houston. Is that piece on the left a bird or a snail? Ooh, where bird. Oh, this is a little owl. Can you believe I made this a little ring? This was a ring. Oh, I see Western Washington. I see New York, UK. Hello. Colorado, in Florida. Nice, nice, my friends. We got a worldwide group today. All right. So when you have everything kind of stuck together, I've got it melted. Here's the trick. You just go over top just like this and smooth it out. Whoa, that had a huge air bubble. See that? Now, if you have something like that, and if you're making a wax and you come across something like that, you got to get rid of it, because if you leave it, it's going to make a hole in your casting. Or it could make a hole. It's not guaranteed to, but it may. And you don't want to risk it, especially if you're working on something and you put hours and hours. You don't want to do that. Oh, Robin, Northeast Tennessee, across the mountains from Asheville. I hope you didn't have any bad times, Kelly. Oh, no. 12:16 a.m. here in the Robin is in there. I'm reading these. Oh, Ann Gardam, Rochester. Ann, I can't wait to see you in Tucson. We're going to have a good time. We were just talking about on the ride down how we're in the midst of planning our Tucson adventure and where we should stay. That's always the question when you go to Tucson. Where are you going to stay? I have a friend that owns a Airbnb type, like a park with a lot of little Airstreams and little camper type. I don't know what they're called. Some little small buildings. Little they're not. It's like a cabin kind of, but not log cabin. And it's near the Desert Museum. It's about an hour away from Tucson. So I don't know. It's a kind of a long drive, I think, to get to the shows. But we're talking about it and trying to look at the map and trying to figure out where we want to stay. So this dark part. This is where I added that big dollop of hot wax. And I'm going to give it a minute because it's molten. Let's see. I'm going to make a little... Smash it down. It had an air bubble in there. Oh no, it just came out the other side. There we go. Oh, Robin said there. I see it. You had a tree blow over. We had a tree come down that almost hit our stuff, but if you can believe it, and I can hardly believe it, it fell down like vertically and then gently fell, avoiding all of our stuff. I couldn't hardly believe it. It was like a miracle. And it's one of the trees. I was like, we need to cut that tree down. It's on my list of things to do, but it's expensive if trees taken down. But it's more expensive if they fall on your stuff. So sometimes, it's you gotta, I guess, plan. Oh, Michigan, Oakland. Michelle's out of Oakland. I really like Oakland. My friend Jess lived in Oakland for a time, and I liked visiting her. We used to go to some really good restaurants. Oh, Azalea, you need to plug in that laptop. It says the battery is getting low. Thank you, daughter. Oh, Kenny says, I wanted to go to Tucson for a few days, but the more I learn, the more overwhelming it seems for a first timer going alone. Yeah. Ugh. We talked briefly about doing something that, like something where people could meet, and like, what would we do? Part of me wants to do like somehow meet and have everyone along with us. I don't know if that's possible, but it's on my wish list. So maybe I'll do another layer. Maybe that might be interesting. Let's see what happens. It's kind of like being a little bit of a mad scientist when you're playing with wax, or an alchemist, because this will soon be metal. So I keep these little rings because you never know. You might want to add one, and it's just one less thing to do if it's already done. Oh, Sheree says, we had a 130-foot tree fall in the middle of the night. I can't imagine flooding. Flooding is my nightmare. My parents had flooding in their youth. And I have I don't even have the memory of it, but I have my parents' memory because they drilled it to my brain, and I had the horror of it. So to me, I feel like I went through it, even though I was only a baby at the time or a youngster. Okay, I'm going to weld these two together, holding them firmly. Maybe one like that. And put them together. Today we went to this food truck circle and got tortas and quesadillas. They were good, very good. And then drove around looking at trees and looking at birds. I always forget how amazing the wildlife is around here. How many, like we were seeing ibises and we were looking for roseate spoonbills. Tomorrow, my brother is going to take Azalea and I on a bike ride on this trail that's a loop that you can see gators and things. It'll be fun. I'm looking forward to it, especially since I haven't really been able to ride my bike like leisurely. All the bike riding I've been doing lately was like riding around and being like, hey neighbor, do you need help? We have water on our backpack. So funny. Shemay says, I am so excited to see this process. You've explained it before, but to see it is great. Yeah, you know what, it is fun. And I will point out, I'm going to point out one more time, that the way that I use wax is non-traditional, let's just say. It is non-traditional because usually what you do is you have a block and it comes in stacks. It comes in a little bit like, that was weird. How did that camera get? That was weird. It didn't even move and it just sort of did that thing. Weird.
What happened?
The camera moved over slightly. Okay. I'm going to get back into the frame. Weird. We have everything, almost everything. We do not have clean drinking water yet, but we have water to wash clothes and to like flush toilets and things. And that, let me tell you right now, that is good times. When we got that, we were like jumping for joy because it was no fun having to haul water up and down stairs. Because like my bathroom's on the second level, and boy, I tell you, that was not fun. But you know what? I think of that and I think, yeah, that I'm going to complain about it, but at least I have a bathroom to do it. So I didn't complain for long. I complained in my mind because you're not going to complain to your friends when they're sitting here going, hey, my house is gone. You're not going to be like, you know, it sucks. I'm not going to do that. Even though I kind of just did it just now. We'll just erase that from our memory. Azalea, did I erase it from your memory?
I don't think it was sitting in my memory to begin with.
Oh,
I'm so locked into my paint pens.
Good. We went to Goodwill today, and sometimes I like to go and look in their craft section, and sometimes you find some good deals. We found, hand me one of them pens and I'll show it.
The gold one is my favorite right now.
I love the gold one. We found a stack of these. They were packaged up in a Ziploc bag, and they were all new in the package for $7, and there were like 12 of them in there. This is not, yeah, it looks kind of like wiping lipstick. I see that. Oh, Katney says, I love Florida. It's so beautiful and so different from Oregon. Florida's like no place else I've ever been. It's its own thing. And I love it here, even though it's warm. It's one of my favorite places. I actually get so much enjoyment doing that drive that Azalea and I love to do every time we're here. It's near the coast, and I think it's is it Black Hammock? I don't know why I can never think the name.
I thought it was just Cape Canaveral bird
Trail.
I thought it was Cape Canaveral something.
Kelly says, you're out of focus, Cynthia, partially out of screen. So let me fix it. Let me move it over. I don't know why my thing keeps moving over. So
you know,
strange.
it might be like, it might be loose.
Yeah, it didn't move. Liz says, thrifting is so much fun. You never know what you will find. I agree. You never know. Oh, Robin says, my brother was bringing his neighbor's pool water for us to flush the commodes. Never been so grateful for water ever before. Boy, I know that feeling. I absolutely. And after this, I tell you, I see a thing that says, Shuri says, oh my word, Cynthia, water barrels, preservatives, and a big generator. Store some gas too. You know what? I have a big old list of things that I'm going to do differently. For sure. So what I'm doing now is I'm just smoothing my surface. And this can be very, very relaxing. I don't know what I'm going to make yet. You guys want to give me some ideas of what I should make? Could make something long, but I wanted to show the process of adding 2 pieces of wax because if you don't know the process, you don't know what you don't know. So having a good example, or I don't know if it's a good example, a different example, is sometimes be very helpful. Gecko, owl, vines and flowers. Let's see. And I wonder if it's because I'm going my hand, maybe I need to come out a little. That might be better. Might be too close. Sometimes being close can be difficult when you're doing things for the online or the cameras. I find that, all right, that's too close. I'll go out again, maybe like this. Don't want to get, if you see the flame, that means it's going to be sitting right above the camera, and I don't want the camera lens to break. Yeah, it's been fun. My brother's been showing, he's very much into wildlife video and photography, so it's been really cool showing each other pictures of our finds. And I was like, look at all these gators. And he's like, I'm not into gators. I'm like, you're going to be into gators right now. So, okay, let's see. Let's look at some of these suggestions. Let's see. Vines and flowers. Kelly says, your camera is loose as it's drifting. I don't know how to fix that because I have a phone and it's on a camera tripod, so that's weird. Oh, Wendy. Wendy says, hi all. I finally made it after work. Thank you for joining us, Wendy. A lizard would be cool. Let's see. Oh, thank you, Robin. Robin says, Cynthia and Azalea, anytime you guys need to come escape over here, I have 2 bedrooms that are yours for however long you need. Thank you. I appreciate that. It's very nice of you. A lizard. So I see 2 people saying gecko, lizard. Okay, let's see what happens. Should I do one? There are lizards all over here. I tell you, that's like the most common thing.
It's not drifting now.
Oh, I don't know. So one of the things that I like to do too is, let's see, we'll just cut out a shape. Part of me, my go-to is always like a bird or a crow or something, so it's good to have another shape. So I'm going to cut the corners off of this. And this is one way that I like to do it. We were talking about doing lessons right before everything happened with the hurricane stuff. We were like, maybe we should have lessons here at in our studio, because we used to do more of that, but it just got so busy. But now I feel like returning to it. It was kind of fun. Well, it is fun to see what people make. Tortoise, not tortillas. Hello, Tina. Hello, Vera. Hello, my friends. Sharon said it's a tortoise, not tortillas. That's cute. Now I'm just breaking off where I drew. You see I drew there, you see that? Now, if you were to make a ring or something, we make blanks. And let me see if I have a blank handy. I make blanks of all kinds of things, and I don't even know if I'm going to use it. Sometimes I just compulsively make them. Here's a locket that I was doing. I dipped something to get this shape. I don't remember what I dipped, but I was making a locket. There, like that. And I just made it, and then I tossed it back into the box. Here's another one I was working on, and I never made this. What a weirdo. You can see where I put the the hinges and just never came back to it. So this is one that I was going to do. Let me see if I put a stone in there. That'd be pretty like this. Picture that with the right size stone. Yes. Tina says more nodding because I'm almost there. More nodding. I thought people would be bored to tears with watching me knot, but you know what? I always get people saying, "Hey, do some more nodding." I'm like, all right. It's thankfully I enjoy it. It's one of my favorite things to do now, and I did not love it before. And lately, since I've been doing so much knotting, I've been coming up with different clasps that I like, and that's been pretty fun. It's always fun. This is the most fun. This is more fun than even knotting. But one of my friends suggested, and I don't know how this would be for people, but to have a kit of wax and like 3 tools and a lamp and then you sign up. And I was like, that's an interesting concept. I don't know if anyone would sign up for such a thing. And then you send your wax back and then we cast it. The only thing is if it doesn't come out, that's kind of a drag. Although I guess you can get a mold made, because I make molds of everything. So what I'm doing now is I'm shaping, just being experimental, really. I'm looking for a shape that is appealing to me. And this is where you can it's sort of like letting your hands sort of find the way. It's almost muscle memory at this point. I don't know what I'm going to make. I want to make something that has a kind of a lizardy look, maybe a gecko, maybe, but this shape kind of appeals to me. We'll see. It might not look anything like this. So that's one. I'll use this tool for shaping. So I have files. Now, the traditional way to do wax work, I will tell you, is by using files and carving. It is rarely additive. And additive is kind of like where you add wax, and subtractive is where you take away. Now, most wax workers, jewelers and the like, have learned the traditional way, which is subtractive, where you use little files, you file and carve out your design. There's no putting back. Partly because with a lot of the waxes that exist in the past, they're too plasticky, and they resist the melting and kind of go like, the texture of it when it melts is sort of like paraffin, in that it's super soft and doesn't have the clean sort of lines that you can get. Terry says eel.
Random.
Eel.
Okay.
And then Wendy says something Halloweeny maybe. Julie says a fish. Oh, I like this from C. Gray. Would love a bumblebee hummingbird. Wow, that's very specific. And I like that. I like those specifically myself. See, I see a couple comments that I did not see. Katney says, I'd like to see more crochet, maybe different techniques. That's fun. I can show some crochet. I've been working on a crochet needle for quite some time. Someday I'm going to be happy with it and just do it. I follow a gal on Instagram that makes handmade crochet hooks out of sterling silver and opals and things, and they're really beautiful, and I love them. And they're like $125 each. I've been eyeballing them. But then part of me is like, you could just make that for me. What are you doing? That doesn't mean I don't want other people's work, because I can make it. This is pretty fun. You know what I'm doing right now? I'm heating up this big tool right here, this file, and I'm just kind of free-form shaping. Like, to me, I feel like I'm kind of finding the shape. When I was in art school, they'd say, Thornton, you got to find the form. I'm doing my voice of my instructor named Dennis Drummond. You got to find the form. So right now, I'm finding the form. I don't know if I'm finding it or if I'm just making a mess, but it's a good time. I highly recommend it. Because you know what? Say this thing comes out looking like garbage. It could very well look like garbage. But you know what? I can just do this. I can set it aside and pretend it didn't even happen and move on. So nothing lost. That's the good thing about wax is it doesn't get dried out. Nothing happens to it. It's inert. You don't have to. I've had waxes that I picked up after 10 years of never even looking at it and then got to work. You cannot do that with some materials. You for sure could not do that with polymer clay. I just crumble to dust. Let's see here. I'm kind of I'm behind on these comments. Maybe a snake, a dragonfly, a mermaid laying down with flowing hair. Julie says, watching you do this is relaxing. Oh, thank you. Robin says, what is your file made of? All my files are made out of steel. And you know what? These files they're not specific to jewelry making. I don't know. Maybe this is a wood file. Dwayne, do you know the purpose of this file? If this is a woodworking file or if this is for, what is this for? I've had it so long. Jewelry. Is it specific? I think it might be for silver or metal, but I've had this so long, I don't even remember why I bought it. I have a background in fabrication, so I know how to fabricate. I just don't love it as much as I like working with wax and casting, because casting to me seems limitless, except for maybe hollow forms. And even then, I mean, I say that, but you know what? That piece I just showed you a few minutes ago was hollow. This is a little kind of a hollow. This is, I was thinking about doing this for resin. The other day I had some resin out. I was like, you know what might be fun is making some bezels. So that's on my one of my things that I could do. Terry says, could you make a silicone mold using wax? I think you have done that. I know you make a silicone mold and the wax is your master. So you mold your piece after you've carved it, and then you don't need your master anymore, and you can, or your wax master. All right, let's see what we have here. So we have this shape. It's kind of like this. I never finished this little thing that I started. This is one that's been sitting in my box. It's a vine. It looks like, I can't tell what that was supposed to be. Maybe, I don't know, peonies maybe? I can't tell from that. Oddly, I'm not wearing my optivisors, and I was like, how come this is kind of blurry? Hey, girl, can you pass me my optivisors if you see them over there? I don't know where you put the flowers. I don't know where I put them either. Dang. Yeah, you can see I love this shape. Oh, and then this is a shape I was working on. Hey, Azalea, that basket has a bunch of pairs of eyeglasses. Maybe that would be good. That would be good. So this, there's a basket and has a bunch of my eyeglasses that I got in the basket. Oh, so this is, you know what I was thinking about? I like fancy face creams and things. And I thought, wow, this would be, I should make my own scooper for creams and such. Kathy says, beautiful, finish it, put it on the website, long flower. Yeah, I didn't do that. I need to do that. And then this is another one I was thinking of, scooping the creams. And this is so you can get into the corner of the jar. So you could do this. If you pretend like this is your thing, you can be like, scrape it all out like that. So you're not digging your fingers in it. I saw this one company that I like. It's called Kindred Black, and they make all this, like, they're like handmade glass vials, all slow beauty type thing. And I love it. But boy, that stuff is high dollar. Maybe not high dollar for everybody, but it's high dollar for me. And I love it because it's like, it has this this look that looks like it's, you know, that maybe Cleopatra used it, you know, kind of. So anyway, you know what? You can see I'm partial to that shape. Here's another one. I made this one a long time ago. This like dagger type shapes, kind of like in my phase where I was trying to make old school amulets. Sheree says, does this wax come in different colors? Could you use color to see definitions in your carvings? You know, yes, it comes in a bunch of different colors, and usually those colors mean different things. Like the lighter blue is more flexible. The red is a little of a harder wax, but it flows better when it's hot. And yeah. Oh, Katney says, yeah, and have a really smooth backside so you can use it as a massager for under eyes and stuff. Yeah, I like that story. That's right up my street. That's like my my gua sha that I made, and I use it every day to massage my face with it. It's one of my favorite things that I ever made. It's a little stress reliever. So this is turning out massive. Now let me see. What did I see? Sharon says a tardigrade, aka water bear. It's supposed to be the most resilient creature because it thrives in extreme conditions. You know, those things are cute. They're very cute. They're adorable. And I don't know why I don't have a water bear. I should have one. I saw 3 votes for a lizard. You know, I just saw a dried up lizard in the windowsill here a few minutes ago. I was like, maybe I can cast that thing. I probably could, but I don't know anybody that would want a metal dried up lizard, so I just left it. All right, now I have to make a couple of decisions. I have to say, hey, do I like this, or do I want to do something else? And this is fun right here. This is the most fun, perhaps, is taking this knife. This is just a regular X-Acto knife, and coming in here and doing one of these. This is so fun. It's like carving soap. I mean, it's carving wax, so you get those nice, long, like peeling an apple. Now I'm getting a different shape. So you can see, say you don't like this, and you're like, why did I do that? That is no big deal. If you don't like the shape, you can easily come in there and add more. I showed earlier, so you could take it and say that I made that weird dip. I'm going to heat this up, and you can go in additive. See, that's the difference between this new modern way. When I say the new modern way, I don't know. It's just the way I am happy carving wax. But everybody's different. So if the way and you're watching this and you're like, God, watching this is making my eyes bleed because I like the old way of filing and carving, then just look at it and say, wow, that's just different. It's real different. Oh. Yeah, Sharon, that shape has the appearance of a water bear. It does. It for sure does. All it needs is some little legs, a little set of a bunch of it, a little bunch of little legs. So now that I look at this, okay, let's draw the lizard on there. All right, so I think that's a bit big. So what I'm going to do, Robin says that organic nature look is very much in fashion. I think it is. I think it's very much in fashion. Karen says, hi everyone, I'll have to replay. That's okay. I like it when it's replay. Okay, so this is massive. And I think what I'm going to do is make it a little bit smaller. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to cut away what I'm not loving. And this is very durable. You can see, look how flexible it is. It's very flexible. It's a little warm in my hands right now because it's warm in Florida. It's very warm. It's probably like 78 degrees right now. Maybe. I think that's a little warm for the nighttime. That's okay. That looks pretty good. It's nice and quiet over here. I got used to hearing the sounds of like helicopters and things, and it's pretty quiet. And it only reminded me because I heard a helicopter earlier. Oof! Now see, I did not wax that together very well. See, I have a little bit of this coming apart. I can easily fix that with doing this. I'm just going to heat the whole thing up, and that's another thing that you can do. It's like glue. Heating it up and it gets that kind of it's melting together. I'll show it like this. Maybe you can see it a little bit. This is called fire polishing, and look how it melts that stuff real fast. It's a little aggressive. This is like the nuclear option, but you know what? It's I hope this isn't going to heat up. I'm scared to do it because I don't want the lens to pop. I've accidentally set my curtains on fire and other things because I was too engrossed in the fire part and not looking up at the residual heat of that fire.
I know I don't want my phone to get messed up.
You don't want your phone to get pop, the lens to pop. So I moved it out of the way. If you can see it in that, it's too close. It's very warm. Oh, thank you, Katney. Katney says, everyone, please remember to comment even on replays. It helps the channel. Thank you. That is true. C. Gray said, would be interested in a remote wax class tutorial where I would send my design back for you to cast. Oh, well, if I get enough people to do that, then it would be worth it for me to source some lamps. I have a friend that does these lamps, and I could ask him if he would make them, or I could just get some from that American Science and Surplus and make kits for everybody. If there's, say, I don't know, maybe I think 10 people might be enough to fill a Zoom class. You know, we bought the membership to do the Zoom and then forgot about it. That's like the thing. We had all the plans of doing Zoom classes. And then, you know, things get busy. You gotta make money for shows, and that always is like very distracting. So it's not one of those things that's like a plan ahead type situation. Which I like, you know, I like in theory, but oftentimes things catch up with me, sneaks up on me. I am, how do you say it, time blind? I for sure did not do a very good job stitching those two together. I'm going to have to go in and really melt them. Sometimes it's kind of fun because, you know, you never know what it's going to look like. I'm just going to start you can make it smaller and thicker because wax automatically wants to round itself off. That just fell off, but I'm okay with it. It's fine because then I can do this. Oh, thank you, Kathy. Hit the thumbs up button. It's free. Diane says, is this clay? Diane, this is jeweler's wax. That's what this is. So I'm rounding the shape off. Maybe I want to make something that's a little more like organic. Maybe it's not going to be exactly a spear shape. Maybe it's more like this. Doesn't really matter because I have so many of these and I make a lot of these. And you know what? I'll just abandon them for a minute and then come back later. And like I said, these waxes, this wax, it doesn't ever go bad. It doesn't get brittle or anything. I've had some of these waxes been sitting in this container for years, and I can just return anytime. Which, you know, you can't always say that with a lot of different crafts. And you don't need a lot. If you do wax work, the fun part of it is that it's not necessary for you to know how to cast because there's always someone that knows how to cast. You know, if it's not your local jeweler, there's somebody at a local college that's teaching casting, and they might have something. So sometimes it's worth looking into. And if anything, if we do this workshop, we will cast it. So, and then, you know, I was thinking, how could people get the enjoyment of that? And I'm like, you know what? I do video. It shouldn't be that hard to come up with the obvious solution. But sometimes, you know, if it's old school, I think of things the same way I learned, which is standing there right over somebody's shoulder, watching. But the best way to learn, the very best way, is by picking it up and doing it. That's the best way. I want to make a hole because I think that would make a nice pendant right at the top. Kathy says, organic shapes for a pendant would be awesome. Karen says, does that get cast the same way as the lost wax casting method? Yes. This would be lost wax casting. This is what that means is when you're molding this wax will be burnt out in a kiln. So what we're making is we're making the negative shape for a mold. This will eventually be, this wax will be replaced by metal. It's a pretty involved process, kind of hard to describe without like basically showing it. And we've shown it a few times here. We've shown castings. And boy, every time I show casting, there's always some kind of person that's an expert that's going to tell me how I'm doing it wrong. And it's always funny. I'm like, guess what, bro? It's just like with painting. There's more than one way to do it. We don't all have to be the same. Don't get upset. They were like, that's not the way to do it. Reported.
Reported.
Bless their hearts.
They really don't want you to do that.
They're like, yeah, that's not the way I learn. You better not do it that way. Something's going to happen.
Stop it instantly. That's
Yeah.
funny.
I know. And I was like, yeah, well, report away, my friend.
Goofy.
And then they did report it. And then nothing happened. Because it turns out, even though it was an affront to their ways, that's not illegal. Okay, so I'm going to draw with this, kind of like 3D ink drawing. So this is the body of my lizard. That's the way my mom says. She goes, I don't want the lizard to come in the house. So the lizards,
Banned for life.
they're banned for life. Because I don't know why they want to come in. I wouldn't want to come in when they're all the stuff that eats outside, but I guess they get curious. Katney says, if it works for you, it's the right way. Yeah. All right, so what I'm doing is I'm making its tail right now. I'm heating this little piece of wax and using it to draw my shape. Now, these waxes, I call this part what I'm doing right now, I call this blocking out the shape or finding the form. Now, when you're finding the form, this is the fastest part of this project because it's the easy and fun part, I think. I mean, it's all fun, but the part that really takes a while is when you're scraping away, getting your details. So I'm blocking it out. So you can see kind of like that lizardy shape. Diane said, so this will make a metal object. Will you make the metal object tonight? Diane, I will not be making the metal object tonight because I won't be finished. This takes a lot of time to do because it's one of those things. Now, I could be done right now. There are plenty of people that can show you how to take this and then, well, I don't know if you could do it. I guess you could do like a very fast mold, but nothing in casting ever seems fast to me. Seems like it's a hurry up and wait. You have to wait for the kiln to burn out. You have to wait for the silicone to set up. So this would probably be done in a few days, probably. If I carve it and I finish it, that's several hours of noodling. And I call it noodling. I'm looking for my favorite scratching and digging tool, which I don't see here. Oh, no, here it is. My precious, this weird thing I call it the needle, this thing gets lost all the time because it does this. It sits on, look at that. It's like invisible. You see that? It disappeared and it's gone. I've misplaced this more times than I can count. I like to use this spoon end. It's kind of a spoon end right there for this. Oh, getting wild. This camera drifted again. I wonder how it keeps doing that. Back you.
I don't even know how to tighten that.
No, I don't either. It's not actively moving. It's just the camera itself is drifting. All right, so I'm going to go in, and what I'm doing now is I'm kind of melting this in, and it's good for melting, and then it's also good for this little detail here. It's like smashing that tail into shape right there. Let me see if you can see it better if I go a little closer. And it's now the part comes to a push and pull of light and shadow. So the way to make things look more three-dimensional is the depth of the wax around your object. So you can make it look a little more deep by digging out a little. Oh, I just dripped that. But I can use that on the tail. Oh, Karen says, I have an unfinished sculpture sitting on my table now. Quotes, too high to cast. It started to melt this past summer. Man, that's too bad. I know that feeling. That microcrystalline wax, that stuff, that is, I'm not a fan of it. I initially learned wax carving in college and I was learning the wax or the lost wax casting method on bronzes. And I made like 25 or 30 of these little dancers and figures. And I got them almost all completely finished, where I ground them and polished them, and they were waiting to be patinaed. And I came back to B Hall, that's the place where I was making them at the Columbus College of Art and Design. And wouldn't you know it, someone had gone in there and stolen every single one. That was supposed to be in my show, my senior thesis show. And someone stole all my bronzes. I had like 25 or 30 of these little figures. They're about that, actually, they're like Barbie, like half of Barbie size. I was so flippin' furious because it was like an entire semester's worth of work gone in an evening. I'm like, what did they even do with it? And then my friend was like, probably sold them. And I was like, oh, yeah, I guess. Karen says, this method looks great, easier on the hands. Oh, God. Doing microcrystalline wax and trying to massage that hard clay, no, I don't like it. And it had that smell like gas, and it doesn't hold that much detail. I mean, I guess it can, but it cannot hold this much detail, that's for sure. Robin says, heathens. Yes, heathens for sure. But the worst part is the knowledge that had to be one of my peers, because they watched me and waited till I did all the work before taking them. Before I could hang my show, they were gone, so they knew. That's the part that made me crazy, and it made me sort of where I was watching everybody with a side eye. Like, who took my sculptures? Which one of you? Which one did it? Which one? I never did figure it out. The other day I saw figures. I was at an estate sale and I thought, oh my gosh, what if this were one of my pieces? I would be like, who owned this house? Find out. Not that I could. Yeah, maybe if I were more of a detective. But you can see how this is going. You know, like you can see how if you melt a little around it, around your piece, it makes your piece pop. So that's the push and pull of light and shadow. You're making a shadow and putting that under his belly, making him pop a little more. This would be considered, this kind of carving is considered, they call it like bas relief when it's standing up. And that's bas, B-A-S. Relief carving. We learned, when I was in school, we learned by looking at the doors on the Duomo. That's that domed building in Italy. They had these carvings on the door that were cast. Same way that I'm doing now. I'm not really sure how they cast back then. I found all these online where like talking about how did they even solder, and it's super fascinating to look at the ancient world and how they did things. They're pretty much the same way that we do them now, but with way cooler looking tools. That's for sure. Because I was like, if I soldered with that weird long pipe, it looked like a long tube, and you used it to make, it's how they soldered. I didn't even think they had that ability. And then we were looking at these sculptures, and they had to have been soldered. But they were like from 3,000 years ago, so that was the question. How did they know how to solder? I guess there was a whole bunch of things they knew how to do that we didn't know that they knew. But I think knowledge is very easily lost. There's a lot of things that we don't know how they're done. Oh, let's see. Diane says, if I go to your Greengirlstudios, will I see items you have made? Yes, Diane, yes, you will see. We make everything on our site. That's our carving. Sherry says, have you ever looked into Tartaria? That's a rabbit hole. No, but that sounds like something I will be getting into later and looking at, seeing what you're talking about. Because that sounds like, Tartarus. Isn't that the land of the, let me see if I can pull that up from my Greek mythology. Where the Titans came from? Tartarus, is it spelled the same way? Oh, Liz says, this is so interesting. Love how the lizard looks. Thank you, Liz. It's getting there. It's a little chewy. But you can see how easy it is to block out a piece. It's pretty easy. The hard part is scraping out the details and getting them to look like an actual lizard. What I'm doing now, the block out process of finding ways to make the sculpture pop, which what I'm doing now is removing some of the wax around the form so that the appearance is more three-dimensional. Look at the maps and the buildings. Okay, I'll check that out. That sounds fun. Like so many things to be interested in all the research. So there's a little burnt part of the wax. If you see those, you just dig them out. They're there. Sometimes it's like, I don't know what it is. Some burnt piece of something. Probably dropped it on the ground and had a little piece of newspaper or something. Who knows? But it all turns to ash under this flame. Kathy says, do you use different logos on your pieces? Yeah, sometimes we do. Let me see if I have something that says it. Oh, here's a little lizard I made a while ago. This is called a crocodile newt. And does it have a sign? Does it have the signature? I don't see it on there. That's not one that has it. Oh, now here's one. The flame was drifting to my fingers. So this has a little star with a C. That is a logo that I use. And then I have another one. Let's see. Digging in my wax container. I'm looking for one that Greg made so then you can see how he signs them. But I don't see one in here. I did not bring my full caboodle of stuff. So I also bring these little Ziploc bags full of waxes. This is from years and years and years ago. Let's see what's in here. Why did I make this bear? I don't know. The same thing could be said of, why did you make this weird octopus, Thornton? Who knows? Oh, here we go. So this one, oh no. This was I was practicing my engraving skills. Of course I wrote mother. Because it was like I was looking at Victorian. There were these little coins that they would put in a I guess you would put, like, if you were leaving your baby at the orphanage, you would put a little coin with it that, you know, said something nice. And I was, for some reason, making one. I don't know why. Oh, here, Azalea, I found one of your pieces. This is one Azalea did. It has a crown and a raven. The king. Is that yours? The king.
Wait, let me
Who else would do a raven king thing? Not me.
No. Oh, yeah, that was
Yep.
definitely me, bro.
Mm.
I want that in silver or something. I would carve it better, but I want that. Here, you can take that back. Maybe I'll work on it later.
Oh, thank you.
The king.
Oh, I see. Karen says, I watched a reality show teaching set in the UK, teaching students old methods. That's when I realized how old I was, because those were the different methods I had learned in college. That's funny. Well, sometimes learning like the way of the ancient is good, because it doesn't hurt to know how things were done before there was technology. You know, we were investigating how to 3D print our things so we could 3D print the trees that we cast, because that would save a lot of time. But, you know, it's on my things to do list. Max is taking a class now. That's my son. He's going to be 15 in a couple weeks. And he's been learning how to use a 3D printer. And I'm excited because I want him to learn so he can 3D print my stuff for me. And then he can 3D print all the wild things in my brain that I don't have time to make. I was like, listen, you could make me dolls and you can make me little figures and my waxes. And he's like, uh-huh. And I think what he's interested in is weaponry. for whatever reason. I'm not sure why. He just likes weapons and guns and things to look at and figure out. He's pretty smart. I mean, I think his interest in weapons is more like how they're made, like Nerf guns and things. And I think he wants to learn to 3D print them. I was like, listen, don't be 3D printing anything that's going to be like getting us flagged. I watched a show that had people printing plastic guns, and I was like, how is that even possible? Apparently it is. It sounded made up, though.
Sounds illegal.
It does. It sounds made up and not really like it would work, but I'm sure that, I was like, that can't be real. But you never know what people can do. There's all kinds of technology nowadays. So what I'm doing now is I'm getting a little bit of wax, and you can see how I'm adding. I got the right angle there. Let's see. This red wax is a little more difficult to see, I think. And it's almost like 3D ink drawing if you saw that little bit right there. So I'm scooping out a piece of wax here and heating it up and adding to the piece. All right. There's a leg. Oh no, there's the leg. That was the tail. I was just adding some too. But this is, maybe I'll change it to a salamander because I love salamanders instead of a lizard. I do like a gecko, but I like salamanders even more. Possibly because Western North Carolina has the most species of salamanders and newts in the world. And apparently that is due to the fact that the Blue Ridge Mountains are some of the oldest. They're all worn down because they're super ancient. They found caves that have nothing in them, not even bacteria. That's pretty old. So those species have a long time to evolve and survive in the surrounding, and it's perfect. So I've seen many, many, many different kinds of salamanders on my walks. It's like my highlight of my whole day. When I finally saw one like 2 years ago, I've lived here for 20 years and I've been going on walks and I've never seen one. And all of a sudden, it was like the floodgates opened and I was seeing them everywhere. Possibly because I learned what their habitat and when they come out. So I kind of figured it out. Like after a rain or in the evening. Like if you go looking for them early in the morning or like in the sun, you're not going to spawn them. So it was kind of cool when I learned because then I was like, okay, now it's time. Turns out that's kind of like after the rain or when it's about to rain, you see them, but that's also like the danger time to go. And the trees are falling down because they get waterlogged and heavy, and that's when they break. But that's also the time to see the good salamanders, so, it's kind of a risk, a little bit. I was telling Greg, I was like, listen, I'll just wear a helmet, which I have a couple of. It's like I was picturing myself wearing my bike helmet, and my friend was like, that is so goofy. Well, I'm not going to actually do it. I'm just talking about doing it. All right, so here we have a little salamander. I'm going to make that tail more clubbed and thick, and it'll look good. Liz says, do you have to have all the details completed before you make it, or can you still add details after it is done in metal? There's a couple different ways. There's a few different ways. So I could cast this right now as it is, just put it in there and cast it. And then this, exactly as it is, would come out of the mold, hopefully, unless it got blown out or something happened. And then I could work on it in metal. And I could go in and do engraving, which is pretty fun. I like to engrave and do little pieces of poetry or words on it. So that's an idea. But what I do mostly is I will finish this piece to the very best of my abilities till I cannot add a single thing to it, until I am sick and tired of looking at it. And I finally abandon it. And that's how I do it. I will keep on trucking until I can't stand it. I can't add any more. It's hard to know when to quit. So what I'm doing now is I'm prepping the back. I'm going to prep it so I can do some engraving on the back and get some nice words in. I don't know what I'm going to put on the back. I don't know yet, but I will. I'll put something nice. Maybe I'll carve another image, but I feel like a lot of folks like it when there's a little bit of a saying or a little reminder. Like I love wearing this piece here. This is a little phoenix. Let me see if I can get close without burning the heck out of myself. So that's a little phoenix. It's blocked. I was testing out this cord. I'm test driving it to see how it performs. And on the back, it says, just begin again. And that is a little piece of a quote that I really love that I got from the Waking Up app that Sam Harris, the philosopher and neuroscientist, worked on or is actively working on. And it was just the idea of it kind of floored me, because the basic concept is that there is no reason that you can't have the best day of your life or the best moment of your life in any moment. You just start over that moment, even if it's awful, and just reset. And even though it's easier said than done, the possibility of it is pretty intriguing. And it's kind of like, it's the idea of like having true forgiveness, of not holding on to the past and not holding on to past angers or judgments or what have you, and accepting the moment as it is, and how powerful that can be, instead of clinging on to old ideas and old things that happened 20 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 minutes ago. Sometimes it's good just to begin again. And so, since that kind of blew my doors off in 2020, when I first heard that, I keep that kind of in my mind when I'm feeling kind of overwhelmed or underwhelmed, or, not feeling awesome. I can just think, hey, this moment can be different, and the thing that can make it different is me. And so it was just a good reminder. So I'm making a series of these little pendants with charms, with sayings that are useful. Just little reminders for the day. Oh, thank you. Liz says, thanks. Love the sayings you put on the back of your pieces. And Robin says, I think Jess Meharry might make hers this same way. Yes, they are wax carved. They're for sure wax carved, and I don't know if she uses the same wax, but they are definitely hand carved wax pieces. They're not 3D printed. There's some artists that use 3D printing, like you can design it in Blender and cast a piece. But I think, I love the look of a very beautiful and refined piece, but there's nothing like a hand carved. I can kind of tell when something's too perfect and it looks machined. It's, there's nothing wrong with that. But to me, I feel like the human touch, the look of the work of the artist's hand is pretty good. I think you can feel it. It gives a piece substance and potency, I guess. That's the word. So I'm heating this file up. It's melted. This file is very hot. And you can see, boy, you can just rip through that wax fast to refine the shape. Diane says, seems like the mold would melt. Would you have to write backwards on the mold? Diane, this is not the mold itself. The mold, I don't have anything here with me that is an actual mold. These are the masters that will be molded. This will be molded in silicone, and this will be burnt out when it's time, unless I cast a mold in silicone. It's kind of a hard process. What I need to do is bring, if I do a wax demo, I should bring some molds to show. But all my molds are with my wax pot. So here's how it's coming out. You see, it's a slow process. I've been working on this for about an hour and 15 now, and you might be thinking, wow, you're almost done. No, not even close. And sometimes you can use the edge. This is one of my tricks too. I'll use the edge and I'll do this. See that? There, it's very satisfying, kind of like soap. And I'm refining that form, making it exactly. And a lot of times you can hold it and feel it and say, hey, does this feel like a good shape? I'm a very tactile person, so anything I make, I want it to feel good in the hand so that when you're wearing it, you can say, hey, does this, it has a good feeling. Something that you would have and maybe use as a worry stone if they're inclined, that have a nice texture and form. This one's a little thick. If this were cast in silver, boy, that would be a lot of money right there. So what I'll do is get in there and shave it down even more. You could use an X-Acto knife. To me, an X-Acto knife is a little too sharp and pointy. It's like using a surgical blade for something like this. When I'm just taking away a little at a time and smoothing it out and feeling it to make sure that one side's not thicker than the other. I'll probably do this in such a way where it has more of an organic shape so that it looks like it's, more hand wrought, I guess. That's the fun part. I like doing this. As you can tell, this part's the fun part, is smoothing and shaping. I have a little bit, when I get down to it, I have a little bit of sandpaper. And here's another thing. Set it down. My hands are a little bit sweaty from this. It's really warm. And I have all these lights on me so that this is bright enough. And then you get it. Then it's really smooth on the back. This is 220 sandpaper. And that's the kind of, you get a little bit of that kind of, it looks a little bit dirty, but that won't matter because then I can do this. And smooth it, take a little off. And then feel it. Make sure that it's not too, thin or thick. You don't want any thick parts where it could blow out or be, you don't need to have it super thick and make it heavy and expensive in silver. Remember, the more mass, the more metal it takes. And metal is not cheap, depending on what kind of metal it is. Oh, thank you, Diane. Diane says, you are very talented. I don't think of myself as being particularly talented. I am, how my dad says, very persistent, he would say. That's your best quality. You got that no give up attitude, that is probably my best attribute, is my no give up attitude. So even when I'm not very good at something, I will keep at it until I am fairly good at it, or I go do something else. But most times I'll stick with it because I'm stubborn like that. And I'll keep trying, even though it's hard. Although I'm not keep trying much with, I've been trying to learn modular synthesizers. And that is some very difficult stuff to wrap your brain around if you're not musically inclined. But I was listening to this podcast about neuroscience and how it's better as you get older, or anytime really, to do things that are to learn things that are outside of your comfort zone, because that discomfort that you feel, the frustration that you get, is your neural pathways growing. And what that is it's almost like you're growing memory and you're growing new brain cells and things. And to me, that seems like that's a good thing. Because for a long time, it was widely believed that you couldn't, that only when you're young can you learn things. Or you hear people saying you can't teach an old dog new tricks. And unfortunately, that can be true for a lot of people because your brain is basically like a muscle, and if you're not going to use it, it can atrophy like a muscle that doesn't get any use. And so that can cause a lot of problems with memory down the road. And then you are kind of stiff-brained and you don't want to learn anything because it's hard. And that frustration is unpleasant and we don't want to feel it, so we avoid it. I know that. I don't want to work on my car, so I avoid that. And I haven't worked on my car. When I mentioned this, we were talking about my Mustang. I have a 66 Mustang, and I used to work on it because that was the only person I was going to work on it was going to be me or my dad. And if I was in Ohio, then my dad would not be able to help me. So I had to learn how to do it. And I could change the oil. I could change a flat tire. I could adjust the carburetor. There's a lot of things I could do, but there were plenty of things that I could not do because I didn't have all the tools, number one. And I just, it was hard and I didn't want to do it. So that's one of those things. If you don't, that was the discomfort. But at the same time, I have a basic understanding of how those mechanics work. And I wouldn't have had to do it if I wasn't put in the position of being forced to do it. So sometimes it's good to learn things that may be uncomfortable. Good for your brain anyway. It's like me, like struggling so hard with peyote stitch. And Azalea's like, man, this is easy. I don't know what your problem is. But those first few rows, it's kind of hard. And they're kind of, or like tubular bead crochet. Those few first rows look like such garbage, and it's like, how is it ever going to look like anything? You just got to get past it and keep on trucking. Keep trying. All right, this is starting to look good. All right, that's pretty good. Oh, Wendy says it actually does replace other things in our brain too, and maybe that's why it's painful. I had a 74 Mustang and my dad did the same with me. Yeah, we were just talking about the Mustang and all the work I have to do to make it run because I have neglected it. It's been sitting in my driveway. Y'all have seen it. If you looked at our casting video from a couple months ago, the Mustang is sitting there collecting dust in the background. I've had so many people say, hey, you want me to buy that? And I was like, no, it's my car. I'm sentimental about it. It's not practical. I need a new porch more than I need a vintage car. My porch is so dilapidated. But that's, it's a thing. All right. So this is how it's going right now. I think what I'll do is I'll pick this up on Sunday and I can show a little bit more of how to refine the shape, refine the face. And that's a little bit different set of instruction because what I've shown today is the basics of how to put 2 pieces of wax, actually I did 3 pieces. And I think that, you use a little bit different, it's more wide strokes, I guess. And the next part of making this wax is a lot of fine detail. And that is a different set of tools, and it's a different kind of a little bit more fiddly. Let me show some of those tools. So I'm going to switch, when I go in for the fine detail, I'm going to switch into these mini files. I got these at the American Science and Surplus. I think that's, if I'm not mistaken, it's in Chicago. I stopped and got these adorable teeny tiny files like this one. And my tools change for that part. I will use something like this. Let me grab it. It's on the very bottom here. Like something like this. It has a tiny, tiny spoon on the end. I don't know if you can see that very well. But this is going to be a good one to go in and really refine the shapes. So that, I think, and showing how to go in and really refine those forms. All right. So that's what we have to look forward to on Sunday. I'm going to show that. And I have some plans for a live sale. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to blow this out and I'm going to flip the camera. Go. Oh, Wendy, you are familiar with American Science and Surplus. I found some good things from there. I'm getting ready to flip this camera. All right. Okay, my friends. Got wax on my hands. So this is the pendant we were working on. It's going to be a little salamander. Pretty nice, pretty nice. All right, I hope that was fun and pretty informative. I think that was a pretty good little mini lesson on wax work, and we'll pick it up Sunday at 7. We will continue with this magic hour. We'll make it as kind of a two-parter on how we're going to finish this up. And by the time then, I'm going to work a little bit more on this, but I think I'll show refining techniques and get down to the last bit of polishing. This could actually be a 3-part because there's a lot of finicky fine detail, but that stuff, that last bit is the longest part. Weirdly enough, that last part of really going in and smoothing things out is probably the most time consuming, and it's almost hard to see the things that you would, what you would expect. It's not you're not going to see the dramatic shift of turning 3 blanks into this. So that part is always kind of fun to show people when they see waxwork and you see it's kind of like, wow, that was fast. But this is the quickest part of the process. This right here we're blocking out, because this happens in about, an hour and a half? We're almost done. So I have probably 3 hours left of fine tuning. And actually the longest part of this whole thing is coming up with the text to do the back. That's the long hard part right there. And engraving all that tiny little text. It might not be tiny, but then, I'm going to come up with a good phrase for this, or a piece of poetry or something, like some little tidbit that would be useful on the back. So let's see. Oh, all right, my friends. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. I had a good time with y'all. I hope you had fun and learned a little bit. And we will see you on Sunday evening at 7 Eastern Time. And thanks, y'all. We love you out there, and we hope you are going to stay creative for the rest of the week. I will see you all later, my friends.